Thank you so much. It's so great to be here. Hi, everyone. So tonight we're going to talk about forgiveness. And when we were preparing this talk, the topic that came up was very specific. And it was about forgiving our parents. I was told that there's so many times a question as young women, young men move into marriage about how to navigate these feelings when they turn around, look at their childhood, and just feel angry, miserable, sad, start noticing patterns that were in our parents' home that are affecting our marriages so deeply, maybe affecting our most intimate lives, maybe affecting the way that we raise our children. And the type of anger and betrayal, distrust, sadness that comes up with that. So as I head into this topic, I want to let you know that that's what I was told. So I'm going in with that angle. But we're going to, hopefully, while we talk about that piece of forgiveness, we're going to have a chance to expand it even further, because forgiveness is one of the most critical elements of life. So I'm very, very grateful to be talking to you about this. I myself have had a very, very long and intense journey of forgiveness on many levels and many different life situations. I feel so amazed and grateful that I get to be speaking to you tonight. And I want to send a tefillah up to Hashem, HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Your children are so beautiful. They are coming to learn to forgive. They're willing and ready to be moser nefesh, to give up some of their pain in order to more fully love. So please, Hashem, bring us your greatest siyata d'shmaya tonight, that the words that come through me should be emes, and that they should enter the hearts of your dear children as a healing medicine, that each person should take what they need that applies to their life and to leave or let go of whatever doesn't suit them. May you bring the Gula Shalem now in me. Okay, so we're going to head in. So I told you that I myself have had a big healing journey, and I'm going to start there, because there is no one on the planet, not the biggest tzaddik, especially not the biggest tzaddik, that doesn't have to do the work of forgiveness, okay? It's a unifying force over here. So I will let you know the following. How I started out, my organic self, my earliest childhood experiences made me a very sad person. On the outside, I have been blessed always to have a very outgoing personality, to have a bright smile, to be active and outgoing. But on the inside, everything hurt me. And one of the things that hurt me the most was a very strong sense of competition. I was one of those little girls that if you were friends with me, then you made a new friend, I immediately felt like you hate me and I'm upset and I'll start being mean to you or something like that, right? One of those. I couldn't find my place. I couldn't find my place in so many situations. And these situations, as we'll learn about later, they began to repeat themselves. I fell into a pattern of instead of making friends, I would just take care of people, whoever needed me, never really letting myself be known. And then at the end of that relationship, whatever it was, feel very angry and used and taken advantage of. And indeed, I was taken advantage of. And it was not a pretty inside story, and it left me with a lot of resentment and a lot of messy, drama-filled relationships, either externally dramatic or internally. They really, really, really didn't feel good. And it was, there was a point where one of these types of relationships really, really devastated me. I became friends with someone who was so unhealthy, which I now see was the greatest gift from Hashem, that I lost all my resources, all of my usual things that worked, they didn't work anymore. I was just stripped of my identity completely. And as I began to heal from that, which I didn't heal right away, no. I was really devastated. When you get involved with someone very unhealthy, it really does a number on you. As I began to heal from that, at some point, I felt inside of my heart, I want to forgive. Now, it wasn't a feeling of, I'm so happy with how I was treated, I just want to be like, I want to forgive her. No, it wasn't that. It was just that I had been in pain for so long, and I couldn't shake it. So I'll tell you a quick story that I wasn't intending on sharing because I have shared it elsewhere, and I have some new things to share with you tonight, but I do need to tell this too because this is what happened. So here I am in my very miserable self, trying to heal, trying to get better from this really, really big trauma. And I go to a workshop. It was a coach training. I'm trained as a life coach. So we were learning about making commitments and how you have to hold your client accountable for a commitment. And my commitment that I said to my student coach is, I want to forgive. But I had no idea what that means. And I had a massive question about it. I want to forgive, but what does that mean? What the person did to me was okay? Is everything now erased? And anyway, it wasn't fair. And anyway, it's still damaged. And how do I forgive years of my life that were lost and stolen from me? And how do I forgive injustice? And how do I forgive Lashon Hara? What does it even mean? Is it all okay now? So basically, I'm just going to say, okay, it's fine, like it never happened, but it did happen. And what about the fact that it happened? Where does it go if I forgive? I was so confused about the topic of forgiveness. I literally didn't understand. I ended up spending a long time speaking to two people, asking them question after question, and I'm telling you this because it's the truth. I didn't hear their answers. It was late at night. It was at a hotel. I'm asking these two people questions. They're telling me all about forgiveness, and I don't hear a single word. Why? Because everything that they're saying about forgiveness, about gratitude, about life, about moving on, my brain is arguing with them. My brain is telling me, but this happened, but that happened, and it's bringing up my whole story again and again of all the bad stuff. Then Hashem intervened. He knew that I wanted to forgive. I had said it out loud. I want to forgive. I wanted this so badly, and I didn't know how to get it. And all of a sudden, as if lightning struck me, I sat up in my chair, and I said, wait, I didn't hear a word you said. I wasn't here. I was living in the past. I was sitting in my story. I didn't hear any of it, but I'm here now. And it was that. I jumped out of my chair. I said, come with me. And it was late at night, and I just had to breathe fresh air and skip through the streets to just for a moment, even for that moment, to actually feel what it feels like to be here in my life, not in the story. It was unbelievable freedom. And with that, opened the door to starting to learn about forgiveness, because I had been living in the past. And when we approach forgiveness, we're really taking the opportunity to live in the present. Now, from then, it still took a long time because, as you will see, most of the pains that happen in our life are repetitions of old pains. So that even if you forgive your neighbor for yelling at your child and you feel very violated, that same violation, that same powerless feeling, that same feeling of there's a bully in my life was there already earlier. It is part of your patterning. It's part of what Hashem wants to heal. So that was the beginning of my journey of discovery, and I will now share with you what I have learned since then. There is a book. It is full of very, very deep sources. It is called You Are What You Hate. today, even though that book is sitting right here in my office, I'm not going to quote from that book so much because I just don't feel that it is necessary. We're going to get to the essence of it without bringing in all the Zohars and all the Arizals and all, and everything. However, please know that this is a seminal idea, a core. The things that I'm going to share with you are core ideas based in Torah, and there's massive writings from Rebbe Yashav on this, massive writings from the Kamarna Rebbe on this. This is Torah ABCs, Alphabet Gimel. So you can rest assured with that, and it's just easier for me, being a very heart-centered person, to transmit this to you from the human experience. But it's a book that I read often and constantly learn from. You Are What You Hate. Very, very precious book. Okay. So what I want to do now is I want to actually give you an education with Hashem's help. I want to give you a paradigm of life that can help you to see yourself in a different light. Okay? I said that we are talking about forgiving parents, forgiving your childhood, and this really is going to walk right on into your marriage, etc. Okay. What we need to know is that HaKadosh Baruch Hu has a great investment in us. Each one of us is unbelievably precious, beautiful, worthy, and infinitely lovable to Hashem. And before we came down to this world, He brought us into a special chamber alone with Him, the Yechidas, to tell us what our life will be. And we agreed to this lifetime. And He said, okay, my child, I'll send you down. Go do your job. What is our job? Our job is to reveal the piece of Hashem that is our neshama. Every person, there's no two people that are the same, and every person has a very special light that only they can reveal. How do we reveal a light? Well, in order to reveal something, it has to be hidden first. And so, we are born into hiddenness. Yes, there was a time when we were in Shemayim, we were in bliss, all was revealed, everything was perfect. The minute we are born, what do? We cry. We literally cry. We are born into hiddenness. And with every passing day, there is more hiddenness. A very simple example. Hashem is constantly sustaining us in a never-ending flow. It doesn't end. It says that there's a little yud underneath the kisei hakavod. From this comes the divine light, flows into us. That's why it's nozel, like a mazal tov. It's not like it's not a pump. It's not a pump that squeezes like a heart. It's literally a drip of light into us. We are being sustained every second. But what does the baby experience? Hunger. Not being sustained. Immediately, I don't have what I need. It's hurting. My stomach's hurting. Mommy, somebody help me. That's a hiddenness. Right away, it hurts. I don't have what I need. And then maybe we do or we don't have a really sweet little toddler years. Not everyone does. Do not assume that you are strange or different if things were difficult from the beginning, or if you somehow had love withheld from you in the way that you needed it from the beginning. And then comes more hiddenness. The day that your parent, who's so supposed to be the most loving and safe person, yells at you. Okay, the heart shuts down. It tells itself a lie. It tells a lie that I'm a bad girl, or it tells a lie that my mother doesn't love me. And then we grow a little bit older, and more things happen. Maybe we get embarrassed, and then we have another lie, another piece of hiddenness. I'm not beautiful. I'm ugly. I'm embarrassed of how I look. And the lies pile on to our psyche, to our personality. They create a set of beliefs, which is a set of a construct of hiddenness from Hashem. So there is no person. That's why I say forgiveness is everybody's work. There is no person that grows up with all emistic beliefs. We all grow up with negative beliefs. I'm not loved, I'm lonely, I should have been a boy, I should have been a girl, I have to do everything, all the weight is on me, I'm going to be rejected, I'm going to be abandoned, all these beliefs. I'm not enough, I'll never be a success, I should be scared of success, if I shine too brightly, people will hate me. All these beliefs, and where do they come from? From this earlier hiddenness that is literally planned by Hashem. And so we grow, and it's not easy, because here we are in this maze trying to navigate life, but, Sarah is sensitive when someone doesn't say hello to her on the street. It bumps right into her belief that nobody likes her. And Moshe is sensitive when his boss gives him the slightest criticism. It reminds him of his father, who said he was a good-for-nothing. And before you know it, he's sabotaging his job until he gets fired. And this is how it goes. Okay. At some point, by the grace of Hashem, the cup of hurting is full. This is how I imagine it, that there's the hurting, the healing, and the work. At some point, the cup of hurting is full. Let's just say there might be more challenges, but Hashem has formed us. He has now, with all the experiences of hiddenness that we've had, He's now set us up so that we really understand and can see what our work is in this world. For one person, their work is to become more confident. For one person, their work is to become more humble. Okay? So as we move into this space from the work to the healing, we have the opportunity to look back at the things that happened to us. And when we do this, which so often happens the minute you get married, you start realizing so many things about your childhood, or it could happen later on in life when parents act in certain ways that are just really difficult to deal with. When this happens, it can be a very bitter time, because the child self is resilient, and that's all they know. They know what they know. Their parents are their whole world. Your life is your life. I grew up in Cleveland, Ohio. My town, my life living space was like 5 blocks by 5 blocks, with a pizza shop and a bakery, and my school was down the block. That was my whole world. Your childhood is your reality. Suddenly you grow up and you have things to compare it with, and it's rough to look back. It's really rough. So one might look back and say, I cannot believe what was done to me. I can't believe what my mother did to me. I can't believe she never hugged me. I never got hugs. I never got compliments. As a matter of fact, I got insults. I got compared with my sister. Whatever, all these kinds of things that start coming up and you start becoming aware of, and they hurt so much, and you say, I'm passing the same thing on to my children, and I don't know what to do. Or I get so sensitive even when my husband wants to give me a gift, because all I saw in my family was that you should be ashamed to get a gift or something like that, right? So all of this comes up, and we start to have a question how to get over this. And could it be that everyone in the world has terrible parents that cause damage? No. So in the healing process, what we need to do is to realize that there are 2 separate things going on. One thing is the experience that Hashem had planned for us through our environment, parent situations, etc. The other thing is the love, the care, the tenderness, the holding, the sympathy that we deserve for what we went through. Because it is true that this is what Hashem planned. It is true that it is part of your mission. It is true that it feels terrible and, yes, cause hiddenness and damage and negative beliefs that you have to undo. It is true that your parents were limited and even, in some cases, abusive. And even in some cases, you actually can't have a safe relationship with them. That is true. And we have to be protective of ourselves, and you have to take correct action. What is the right and safe way for me to interact with my parents? That is all true. But what is even more true, and where we really want to go if we're ever going to heal, is to the self inside of us, that little girl or that little boy that has inside of her an innocence, a sweetness that deserves to be told again and again, you're precious, you're beautiful, you don't deserve to be violated, you don't deserve to be yelled at. And we start to pay attention to what happens inside of our heads, because the very voice that was once our parent's voice, for example, if you had a critical parent, becomes the voice that is inside of your own head. And so if you have a mean parent voice externally, now there is a mean parent voice internally. And so your work as an adult now to start to bring out the reason, the piece of Hashem that you're meant to shine. Remember, if you want another word for Hashem, just call it love. Right? All Hashem it wants to do is to give to us. Hashem is love. When we are hurting, it is so hard to give and receive love. When we don't feel lovable, it's so hard to receive love. And then that flow of intimacy is stopped, because intimacy is give, receive, give, receive, give, receive. Any place inside of us that doesn't feel worthy makes it a cut, a block in that intimacy. So we want to become beings that can love and that can receive love. And so we have to, what we do is we start listening to our inner voice, going back to that, and creating a new voice so that we ourselves can be the parent that we need. It's called reparenting. It's a term in psychology. It's a real thing. To reparent yourself is to give yourself true messages, not the messages of hiddenness. Not the messages of hiddenness that cause you to say lashon hara about yourself, that you're not enough, that you're not loved, that you're not beautiful, that you're not special, that you're not worth time. Oh, honey, you are worth all the time in the world. There's endless time for you. And yes, there may not have been a physical parent who ever told that to you, but it's the truth. It's the truth of what a child needs. And there's no one that knows that what that child needs better than you. And so, through all your learning about Emunah, all this learning about Hashem loves you, Hashem wants what's good for you, everything is for your benefit, you can call to Hashem at any time. What do you think Hashem is? The ultimate parent. He is the ultimate parent. And He gives us the opportunity to emulate Him, which is how we need to be in our Tselem Elokim, Mahu Rachum Afatar Rachum. To be that same way for ourselves. If Hashem is there for you all the time, guess what? That means that you need to be there for you all the time. Giving yourself a voice inside of compassion, of love, of mercy. It can take a while to retrain this voice. We are so used to putting ourselves down. I remember going to my Rav once. I was probably married around 2-3 years, and I came from a family that did a lot of chesed. And I had a few little children at that point, and it was before Yom Kippur, and I was trembling. And I literally said to him, please, I don't know what to do. Like, let's say I clean the house, I put the children to bed, my husband's not home yet, and I have time. How could I read a book when I have a whole list of people that are lonely and that I need to call? And he just looked at me and he said, balance, Malka, balance. At that point, I had no idea what balance was, because my head, the voice in my head was only saying, Malka, you're not enough. You're bad, you're bad, you're bad. You have to do more things to be considered good. do more things. I've told the story a few times that when I was a very young girl, I lit a match that subsequently led to my house lighting on fire. Later on, they said maybe it was an electrical fire, but whatever the true story is, what my 5-year-old self knows is that I lit a match, the house went up in flames, my family had to move out. I didn't actually get into trouble, so that means I always felt like I'm bad and nobody even knows it. And my inner mindset from the experience that Hashem sent me was, I'm bad. And I literally couldn't relax no matter how much chesed I was doing and kiruv I was doing and taking care of children. I could never say, wow, you're an awesome mother, you're a wonderful wife, now sit on the couch and put up your feet and be that parent that tells yourself, good job, you put in a good day, time to relax a little. No, instead I had this voice that said, you have to do more or you will be bad. These are the types this is the type of heaviness that we live with very, very often. So the first piece of education that I want to transmit to you is that, just to recap over here, is that whatever happened in your life is valid and the pain is valid and it deserves the most compassion. And while you cannot go back to those very people who hurt you and make them change, you cannot, and that is not your job. Everyone has a private relationship with Hashem. What you can do is start treating yourself the way that you deserve, with a loving voice inside of your head. And you can take the time to get to know your sweet little inner child, because there is a sweetheart in there. And she may never even have been told that she's a sweetheart. I'll tell you another story. When I was doing some deeper inner child work, I had a conversation with my little self, because I said to her, I'm going to spend the day with you. What do you want to do? And she ended up, it was just a little conversation, and I went to a place called Build-A-Bear. You actually build yourself a stuffed animal. And in this place, I thought there was only bears, but it turned out that there was a unicorn there. Now, when I was a child, I loved pretty things. And I was part of a big family, and I had a lot of hand-me-downs, and I'm a very aesthetic person. I really like pretty things. So I was at a party once, a little Hanukkah party, and I saw this stuffed animal, this unicorn, and it was so beautiful. I wanted it. So I took it, I stole it, and I brought it home. And I was so beset by guilt, I couldn't really enjoy the unicorn. So eventually I gave it away. I made a neighborhood contest, races on my front lawn. Whoever won got the unicorn. I just couldn't even have it. And I said to my little self, I said, little self, little girl in there, and I did this in writing. I said, you are not a stealer. You are not a bad girl. You just liked pretty things, and you didn't think that you could ask for them. And that's why you took it. If you would have had it, you wouldn't have taken it. Today I'm going to buy you your very own unicorn as a gift of love. And it was very sweet. Pardon me, I stuffed this little unicorn. They give you a little scented heart to put inside of it. I did that. I rubbed the heart, gave a little bracha. They say make a wish. Okay, I put it in, wrote up a little certificate for it. And I actually gave myself the gift of this unicorn. I'm a grown woman. I don't need a unicorn. But I needed to give myself a message to myself. I forgive you, self, for stealing that unicorn. I forgive you, and I'm no longer identifying you as a troubled child. I'm identifying you for your purity and your innocence that Hashem sees you in, as one who likes pretty things, and that's why you took something, and you would have loved to have not stolen. I forgive you, and I love you. It was so healing. So that is the recap of the first part of our talk, is please, if this is all you get out of tonight, this is enough. Start listening to the voice in your head and realize that it might be very negative, and that's on purpose, because what you're going to discover is going to be very special. Now, let's continue on. So, sometimes things, let me just think about where I want to go. Okay. We're going to take a break now about childhood trauma, and we're going to jump right into marriage, okay? when we have these beliefs about who we are and the negative things that happen to us, these beliefs follow us into most every relationship. We get married thinking that this is the right person. Either we know them through dating or it's something that's much shorter, but we say, okay, Hashem is mevasher. And we assume that all we have to do is work on marriage and use all the right tools and everything will be fine. Little do we know what Hashem has in store for us. What He actually has brought into our life is someone, yes, to love and to take care of us and for us to take care of and to build a life together, yes. But also He has brought into our life someone who can heal us and who we will be healed through. And we think, if my husband was actually the one to heal me, he would say all the nice things that I never heard before, and he would do this that I never got before, etc. But then what we find out is that there's so many parts to the marriage that are exactly the same terrible feeling as a childhood, in a different way. You can marry the person that's the opposite of your father, and he will upset you in the same way that your father upset you. What in the world is happening? Why isn't it just two people get together and they click like puzzle pieces? Answer: they do click like puzzle pieces. You are there to heal each other. And that means, and when I say heal each other, I don't mean in a codependent way to lean on each other. I mean that the way in which you make each other feel, the way in which you upset each other, even make each other feel bad or disappoint each other, is an opportunity for each of you, but let's concentrate just on you right now, to heal from your old negative beliefs. I'll give you a very simple example. My father grew up an only child, and we had 9 children and 2 adopted children. We brought someone in from Russia and someone in from Ireland. To my father, it was very, very important that things be on time. Dinner 6:30 meant dinner 6:30. Like I said, he grew up an only child with European parents. That was very important. When I was younger, I saw this was hard for my mother. She didn't grow up with a big family, and here she was managing all of us in a busy open home, and I saw that she would rush to try to get things ready for him. And as a young girl, the way that I interpreted this was that I didn't like it at all. I felt bad for her. Now, as an adult, I can see whatever their dynamic is their dynamic, but she just was trying to be a good wife to make him happy. But from my perspective, for my personality, I have very strong, independent personality, I didn't like it. So what happened when I got married? My husband, as it turns out, also likes things set up very, very nicely. And so I would set up the table when he was at shul, and I would put out all the nice little fish plates and make everything so perfect. But instead of taking pleasure over it, inside of my head, I was like, I have to do this because the fellow is expecting me to do this, and I have to get this done. He wants it perfect. And I remember my sisters would come to visit, and they would think that I was being very silly because I was being very uptight about it. But I was like, no, you don't understand. He needs it perfect. As if he's going to get so mad at me if it's not perfect. And I overlaid all this, this idea that I had that somehow a husband forces you to do things that you don't really want to do and makes things hard for you. I just dumped that on him, when really that's not his personality at all. He's a very kind person, and yes, it gives him very much pleasure when things are ready, and he feels great. He feels really supported and really loved, and he just feels like life is in order when I get things in order, which I don't always do, but Friday night gotten pretty good at. But I made a whole resentment out of it, and it wasn't even who he is. It took me many years to realize that. It was my idea about men and women, my idea that I put on him. I wasn't able to see him for who he is. So what is the way to have a healing experience in marriage? It's very simple. It's not very simple, but the formula is simple. Okay. There is a source that says, what was the depth of the fate of the Eitzadah? The fact that Chava got seduced into eating from the Eitzadah okay, it happened. It's not a good thing. We're still rectifying that sin to this day. But there was an additional moment, which is what really, really brought it down. And that moment was the moment that Hashem called out to Adam Rishon, and he said, Ayeka, where are you? What's up, Adam? What happened? And Adam said, the woman that you gave me, she made me do it. If Adam would have simply said, I'm sorry, Hashem, I ate from the tree that you told me not to. If he would have just owned the truth, if he would have just been real with the truth of it, then there would be a whole different story, a chance to do tshuva, a chance to come back. But that wasn't how it happened. And so we have this paradigm that when things are hidden, they get rotten. Did you ever have like a potato roll under the table and some corner crack and soon there's this terrible smell? Things that are hidden, not exposed to air, they get rotten. So one of the ways to use your marriage as a healing platform is to undo that mistake of not being real and to start being real. So that, in my case, it would mean having a conversation with my husband that says, this crazy thing happens. I want to make it nice for you, but I feel such a sense of pressure, and then I get all uptight and resentful, and what should I do? This is what's going on inside of me. So I'm not attacking him. I'm taking responsibility for the story that Hashem gave me in my life. Everything that I experienced inside of me is the story that Hashem gave me. So I'm just letting him know, this is my experience. What should I do? Here's how I feel. And by bringing it out into the air, now we can have a healing experience. Now maybe my husband, this is not true, but maybe he could say, you know what? Thank you for telling me that. I didn't realize it was hard for you. It just means so much to me because in my childhood it was never ready. Or maybe he'll say in my childhood it was always perfectly ready and that was like the best time of the whole week and it just reminds me of that. And you have a real conversation about the realness of life that we are all, every one of us, men and women, on a healing journey. By bringing it out into the open, you right away create a healing. It says that's the depth of why when somebody had a saras, they brought it to the Kohen Gadol. Why? Why did they have to bring it to the Kohen? Pardon me because I don't remember if it's the Kohen or Kohen Gadol. Perhaps it was just the Kohen. Why? Because just by showing the blemish, by bringing it to the light of someone else, already it begins to heal. That was the first stage of the healing process. So I want you to know that we have the possibility of being filled with love. And unless we do the work of being filled with love, we are by default filled with resentment, darkness, anger, stories. We literally collect the stories that hurt us. And why? Why do we collect the stories that hurt us? Because up until now, they've given us our identity. Our neshama knows this is where I need to do my work. This is a place. This is a place that I still need to work. So I collect that story. Okay? And then as we bring more self-love into ourselves and begin to tap more into Hashem's love for us and begin to be more real with our feelings and say them out, that brings healing to those stories. Now the places that were hidden become places that are bright. You know, when I was a little girl, someone embarrassed me very, very badly. I remember, I don't want to say the specific embarrassment, but it was a terrible embarrassment. And they didn't do something terrible, but the way that I felt was terribly embarrassed. And it made me so sensitive to shaming people. So sensitive that I don't want to shame people. By going back and giving compassion to that little child that I was and telling her, I love you, I'm sorry that happened, I wish that never happened to you, and we're going to make sure that we don't do that to other people. Right then, that piece of darkness became a place where I'm now bringing out Hashem's light every time I don't shame someone. Okay, we continue. Sometimes we have an experience later on in life. This can be a really, truly traumatic experience. A very classic experience that sadly many women have experienced now is their husband using the internet inappropriately. That is one of the most just devastating things that really just, tears the heart out of a woman. Or in any other way, we have been traumatized later on in life. Something big happens, okay? It could be that this big thing is something external, that like a life situation, a loss, a crisis, loss of money, or it could be like the one that I mentioned within a marriage, or it could be anything else with parents. Okay. What then? What about then? Now you're all grown up. Here I am talking about your childhood pains and your beliefs, but what you're talking about is something horrible just happened and I'm is happening, and I am writhing in pain right now. What do I do right now? How do I ever forgive? How do I ever let this go? So know this. There are stages. I am never going to tell you that you must forgive something while it's still happening. That would be called taking abuse, and that is unhealthy and ungodly. We are not meant to take any abuse. We are not meant to take any violation. Absolutely not. You are under no obligation to forgive something while it is still happening. If you want to be very godly, you can look at the violation and you could say, I see that even though this person is violating me, I am moda. I admit that this very thing is from Hashem. And even though it's coming through this person, I understand that this is part of what Hashem has in store for me. That's good. It's a level of emunah. But don't stay there. Don't allow it to go on. We are meant to develop a self. Every man is meant to become a king. Every woman is to become a queen. Okay? It says, Eved melech melech. A servant of a king is a king. If you are driving in a limousine and you're going very fast and a policeman stops you and you say to him, look, it's the president's car. I've got to go. Trust me, the policeman's going to let you go. Because if you're working for the president, you're as important as the president. Eved melech melech. You are a daughter of a king. That makes you a queen. Okay? And that's our goal, is to stand tall, to stand proud, to be full of love, but full of self, not a self of ego, a self that understands that she deserves protection and that has the capability of protecting herself. So definitely we don't allow the violations to continue. But let's say it happened and it's past, and now you're on step 2, okay? So the muscle that came to me when I was in that stage of so much pain, I remember in those days of that particular pain, I could barely take care of my kids. I did take care of them, but I would do it, 5 o'clock, they give them dinner, and then I had to just go to my room and rest for 2 hours and then get up for bedtime. That's how much it sucked out my life force, my energy. And it was so terrible. And I used to feel like you smashed me, like I'm a glass cup. I was a perfectly fine person. You took me on the floor and you smashed me. And now what? Now I'm supposed to pick up the pieces. Have you ever tried to pick up the pieces of broken glass? Oh, and then people say, yes, there's a Japanese art where you glue together the pieces of glass with gold paint, and then it's a whole new beautiful creation. And I'd be like, that's not what I want. I don't want a glass that has gold lines in it that always reminds me of brokenness. No. Maybe that's somebody else's concept. That is not my concept, and I don't believe that that's all Hashem has in mind for me, that he would just break me in order to make this pretty-looking broken thing. I don't think so. And slowly with time I began to realize I am not a glass at all. I am clay. I am a clay that has been formed by Hashem. And at some point Hashem said, my dear, I want more for you. And so he squished up the clay and he formed it into something new. And that pain was the pain of being squished, of releasing the old identity, the old me, and of being forced to look at the things that hurt inside, and of being forced to come closer and closer and closer to Hashem and closer to my own self-love so that he could make me into something new. I'm going to take a pause here because I don't know where we're up to with time. Can you tell me where we're up to with time? Hello, hello, hello. Can someone unmute themselves and let me know, do we usually have a 45-minute class or an hour-long class?
I think an hour, yeah.
Okay.
I think an hour, yeah.
Okay, so I think we'll go for a few more minutes, and then we're going to stop for some questions, okay? Yeah, we're not going to go for too much longer, I think. Okay. The quote is, and I cannot remember this quote again, I've been reading this book, but the quote is that evil is the throne of good. If nothing bad would ever happen to you, you would never find out more about yourself. You would never change. You would never become. I would never be giving this class if nothing bad ever happened to me. That's how it goes. Every one of us knows that the very things that have hurt us are the things that make us who we are. And we don't like this. We don't want evil to be the throne of good. We want good to be the throne of good. And in Mirza Hashem and Mashiach says it will. It will be. But right now, when someone is, so to speak, your enemy doesn't have to be your big, bad enemy. Your enemy is anyone who comes to hurt you or undermine you. Your enemy has a piece of your light, and you have a piece of theirs. I will explain it to you. If somebody comes and is very, very mean to you, the way we understand it, and this is very much connected to Bilam and Moshe Rabbeinu and Klal Yisrael and Amalek, the way that we are mirror images of each other, like we have to tangle together. Why? There is a piece of darkness that I have, and where is that piece of darkness? How can I redeem it? How can it become light so that I am more filled with light? Only by dealing with my enemy. Only by tangling with the darkness and taking that darkness out, like taking that rotten potato out and talking about it and working on it and bringing love to it and being the protective parent to it and finding out that Hashem does love me through it. That's the only way that I could make my darkness into light. And my enemy comes to give me that opportunity. At the same time, there is something that, why did my enemy come to me? Why does anyone come to hurt you? Because there is a piece of your light that they need very, very desperately. And they may not say that. They may instead be the ones that are speaking Lashon Hara about you or hurting you or betraying you or whatever. But actually, there's a piece of your light that they need. And so, by forgiving them, you're actually giving them that light, and they can stop tangling with you energetically, spiritually, and eventually physically. Now, what does this mean to forgive someone? This is our final piece over here. So, says the Kamarna Rebbe, the depth of forgiving someone is actually simply to daven for their healing. You don't have, not everyone in the world is going to be safe for you to confront. You might want to, you might try, but you have to be very attuned. Is this safe for me? Is this kind to my inner child? Do I have to put myself on an altar and spill my guts and speak it out? Is that person safe? They may or they may not be. But simply by davening for them, by saying, Hashem, I know that you sent me this person. Please heal that person from their darkness. Heal them for me and heal them for them and heal them for your world. You've already accomplished what you need to accomplish. The way to get there is to realize and recognize that any person who comes into your light to hurt you is truly, and I only say this because I have done this work 1,000 times, and because it's one of the things that I meant to teach in the world, I cannot tell you enough how Hashem has tested me. I could cry right now how Hashem has tested me with people hurting me, flipping on me, causing me damage. It's what Hashem gave me, and I'm grateful for it, because otherwise I couldn't capture that light, and I couldn't find a more loving heart and a more forgiving heart. But the reason why I'm telling you that is because this is the most beautiful work. When you realize that the very person that came to hurt you is actually there to heal you, okay? They're there to heal you, which means they're there to make you feel so bad, to trigger that negative belief you have about yourself so you can finally get to it and fix it, okay? You can finally, let's say somebody, it's hard for me to think of an example this minute because I don't want to bring personal examples because I do want to leave the people that I tangled with alone. I don't want to even bring in their energy here. But, they are there to bring out the very same thing that happened in your childhood. For example, a very simple example would be, my husband doesn't pay enough attention to me. What does this feel like? This feels like when my father didn't pay enough attention to me. I can go back in there. I can parent the child. I can tell her, you do deserve attention. I'm so sorry that you didn't get it. I'm so sorry that he didn't see. I'm so sorry that he didn't appreciate girls. Girls are wonderful. Here's what I want to do for you, my sweet child. You're so precious. I want to spend time with you. I want to hear what you have to say. And slowly you begin to treat yourself with more honor and more respect. And instead of looking towards your husband through the eyes of the small wounded child who's waiting for a crumb of his attention, you begin to give yourself attention. And you begin to realize he's just there to call attention to your belief system that you're not worthy of proper male attention. And as you treat yourself with more love and become your own father and start to allow Hashem to be your own father, very oftentimes it's more helpful to be your own mother to have Hashem be your father, but that doesn't either way. Then, first of all, you release him from blame. So all this mirrored energy, you're not giving me attention, and then he feels defensive, even if you don't say it. He can never do enough. He can never fill that hole that is your child's self. You release him from blame, and not only that, but eventually as you start treating yourself with more self, not just looking for his approval, his crumbs, things change within your marriage. You start saying different things. You start acting in different ways. You start being able to say, hey, Chaim, I need a few minutes of your attention. You know why? Because you finally know that you're allowed to ask for that. You don't have to sit like a victim who I don't get my father's attention and now make your husband the bad guy. Maybe he was just waiting for you to ask for it. Maybe he didn't know that's what you're supposed to do. So every person who comes to hurt you is literally there to heal you. And if you can, take any pains that you have and see it through that lens. The neighbor who's ignoring you, see what does this bring up in me? What are the beliefs that I have around this? What is the true belief? What's the MS of my lovability? How can I be kinder to myself in the face of this? Then you realize that everyone is just a prop in this world. Hashem only brought these things for you out of his great love for you, that he wants you to know something unbelievable about your own worth. And Hashem is very persistent He won't stop until you know how special you are. He won't stop until you know how holy you are. He won't stop until you're finished with being ashamed. He won't stop. His love for you is so unbelievable that he will continue to bring these things until you do the work, because he doesn't want his children walking around broken and shmatas and victims and not treating themselves nice and taking abuse. No. He wants us to stand tall, to be proud, to be a light unto the nations, that each of us is a king and a queen. And so we must do this process, go through this work, so that we finally reveal the piece of Hashem that we were meant to reveal. I think that's all that I want to say for today. Thank you, Hashem, for giving me these experiences and these insights. I hope that even just a little bit, even if you only just heard that you are loved and lovable, even that would be enough, because we are all so yearning to have healing, and any piece of resentment that lives inside of us hurts us. It makes us, it's a piece of darkness in us. Darkness is darkness, whether it's against yourself or against somebody else. So I bless us all that we should be able to release all the darkness and see everything through the lens of a loving God and turn to Him. Turn to Him as much and as often as possible to refuel and refill up with His love that we so deserve.